All right. Mulvaney adding his name to that of the President of the United States and others in the White House saying just stop the filibuster, make it a simple majority rule in the Senate. At least we'll get cruising on some things. Mitch McConnell, of course, the leader in the Senate, not keen on doing that. And many other Republicans have their concerns because it could be just a matter of time before Democrats are in charge and they'll be blocked out on pretty much anything going with a simple majority. Colorado Republican Senator Cory Gardner on that. Senator, what do you think of that? The whole filibuster thing, the president, now the budget director saying simple majority.
Well, you know, if you look at the behavior of the Senate over the past 100 years, it's changed dramatically. The filibuster was rarely used. Filibuster on a motion to proceed was rarely used. And now we see it more and more invoked by both sides of the aisle, frankly, and certainly being abused this past weekend, which led to a shutdown of the federal government unnecessarily. And so I think it's behavior, number one. And number two, we have to start looking at ways that we can make this body function again. If that means eliminating the filibuster on things like the motion to proceed so that we can actually get onto legislation, I think that's something that this chamber needs to consider.
You know, the rap, as I said, sir, at the outset from Mitch McConnell, be careful what you wish for. You just might get it. And all of a sudden, you could be in the minority and not getting anything.
It's a big question. In fact, I've had a lot of conversations with my colleagues about this, some who 5 years ago were absolutely opposed to changing it, some who have seen the behavior today who support changing it now, and others who are trying to figure out where they are. But, you know, I think we have to look at the speed of the executive branch right now and how we can keep up with them and the pace of legislation today and what needs to change in order to make sure that the legislative branch can respond to a modern government. And part of this discussion is, should we be able to block simply even debating legislation?
Switching gears, but I would be interested in getting your take on Attorney General Jeff Sessions talking to Robert Mueller on this Russia probe. Went on for a few hours last week. What do you think is going on there? And I was raising it with Director Mulvaney whether there's a sense of a siege mentality at the White House. What do you think?
I don't think there's any sense of a siege mentality. I think the White House has been very clear that they have cooperated. This is a sign of cooperation. This needs to be done fairly. It needs to be done thoroughly, and it needs to get over. And the American people need to be presented with the facts. And so that's what I hope they're getting to. They're reaching the conclusion that whatever it is. But I think the fact that you see these conversations means that this investigation is going on. There's no siege. This is being done in a thoughtful manner.
Do you know when you say it's going on that it's anywhere close to wrapping up? I mean, people far smarter than I and fine legal minds say when you're at that level and you're talking to the likes of a Jeff Sessions, you are close to wrapping it up. But I don't know. What are you hearing?
Yeah, I don't know either. That's the speculation that I hear, that these are some of the final conversations they've had. But the American people, they need to get on with this business of getting the business completed. And so this is part of the need to get this, the investigation done, the special prosecutor done, the special investigation done, so that they get the facts, have it done, and have it behind them.
Do you think that there could be a bombshell announcement or the timing of one right before the midterm election? And that would be a problem?
I think it would be very hurtful for this country if there were a bombshell announcement, particularly timed to be before the election. That's why I think this needs to be done sooner rather than later. And bombshells tend to be partisan, and that's what I'm concerned about so far. We need to make sure that the investigation at Congress stays nonpartisan. I think Mark Warner and Richard Burr have done a good job of that. But any kind of attempt to do something around an election, that really makes people question what the intent of anything that was taking place.
You know, we're talking about the shutdown fight that's just resolved, Senator, and a lot of people are looking at what happens in a few weeks, by which time something on DACA immigration reform has to be agreed to, maybe not, yeah. but that we could be revisiting all of this in a few weeks. What do you think?
You know, it's one of those things where I think I asked our 14-year-old daughter if she scooped the walk because we've got about 8 inches of snow, and she knows if she waits long enough in Colorado, the next day it's going to be 40 degrees and it'll all melt away. And so what we can't do, and we don't have the luxury of doing, is just waiting for something else to take care of the problem. That's not what we can do in Congress. We have to fix this problem. The president has made it absolutely clear every time he's talked to me about this issue that he wants a solution on DACA. He laid out a very clear 4-part agenda: border security issues, how do you address DACA, chain migration, and issues related to the diversity visa lottery. I've had multiple meetings today about a need to solve this problem. If we do it, it has to be done one way: enough support in the Senate, enough support in the House to get on the president's desk, and then ultimately enough support. You have to get that enough support, and then you have to get the president to support it. If you do that, then this is taken care of. If you don't have support out of the House or Senate, it's not going to get anywhere.
Senator, if you had to wage the odds here, how does it look for a few weeks from now?
These are tough issues. I mean, everything that we've talked about have different parts of the Republican Democrat base have different concerns over the issues. Obviously, border security is very important, and so that may be less important to some other people. And it's going to be a give and take process. But at the end of the day, the four things the president laid out, I believe, need to be met. And if the president feels that they haven't been, he's not going to sign it. So the goal is here to address DACA, to address the things the president has said, and then to get it signed into law so that we can fix this. And if it has that support in the House and the Senate to do that, the president's going to. If he feels it hasn't, he's not going to, and that would have been a wasted time if we can't get this accomplished.